Welcome back to Supro's audio extravaganza. This time, like I said in the other video, we're gonna have a little fun with the VSTs. I've got two special effects for you today. One of them is just simple reverb, just a little bit of reverb like you're thinking in your mind. The other one makes it sound like you're talking on a phone. You're on speakerphone. Hey everybody, check it out, Supro's on speakerphone, whoa! Now to start out, I'll tell you all the VSTs that you'll need for these effects. First off, you will need the TDR Nova VST, or just basically an equalizer VST. Now I'm not going to talk about the compressor, you should already know that, and it's not necessary for the effect. Another VST I use for one of the effects is called the Valhalla Supermassive. I'll put it in the description below, along with the TDR Nova as well. By the way, they have all the Valhalla VSTs grouped together in one big list. Just go to the downloads and go all the way to the bottom. The Supermassive is there, down near the bottom. Lastly, we're using Reverb River. I don't know what kind of name Anyway, I'll put that in the description as well. Now we're gonna start off with the Reverb Effect. Here's the effects chain right here, all the filters in a row. If you watch the other video on the basics of how to set your audio in OBS, you'll see a lot of familiar stuff, but we're not actually going to show all the things in the effects chain right here. We're just going to show the important one, the Reverb River, Anyway, here are my settings. Oh my god, there's so much. Okay, chill out. I'll walk you through it. Now the only things you need to worry about here, and the only things that I changed, were the variations, the ER variation and the reverb variation, the decay time, the room size, and the mix of the ER, the reverb, and the wet. Which, by the way, I didn't talk about this in the other video, but dry and wet mean without the effect and with the effect. Wet means you got my audio all wet with your effect. Ah, it's dripping with reverb. I don't know. Also, I almost forgot, I changed the gain a little bit. I definitely changed the high. I think I changed the low. But for right now, we're gonna get into the decay time. Now the decay time is how long it takes for the reverb part to stop reverbing. I have it set at 1.5 for this effect. The room size makes it sound different. If I knew more about this, I could probably explain it better, but it's probably better to talk about it in layman's terms. It's basically if you've been in a smaller room that reverberates and you're like, oh, I can just hear slight reverberations. And you've been in like a whole dang church where you go like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's basically how the room size changes things. Now here on the right side, we have the ER, the reverb, and the wet. And this is just a mix of how wet I actually get my audio. Now I set this ER thing at -3.2. I don't know what that means, honestly, but I kind of like variation 5, let me tell you that much. I've set the reverb at -4.6, and I've set the wet at -9.9. Ooh. Let's give it a little bit of a listen to how it sounds. Look at me, thinking so studiously. Yes. In my mind, I can think of the world, the universe. I certainly am 14, and this certainly is deep. That's pretty neat, right? Just a little bit of reverb to make it sound like you're thinking in your mind or something. I use a similar thing a lot in my streams, actually. For the next effect, we have one where it sounds like you're talking on a phone. This is one I've used here and there on my streams as well. Now, of course, you have your basic effects chain for your own audio and stuff, but we have 3 necessary things to put on here. The first one is EQ. The next one is this Valhalla Supermassive, which is delay basically, and a little bit of return on the reverb, which is honestly optional, but I like the way that it sounds. So first off, we'll start with the EQ. And wow, if you watch the other video, it does look a little bit different here. Now we got both the high pass and the low pass on right now, but the high pass is put all the way up to 1,550 hertz, and the low pass is put all the way down to 11,500 hertz. Now the thing about phones and older communication devices and stuff is that they don't have a lot of the low end and the high end. It's all that crunchy middle end. It's all that treble and stuff. Now just with the high pass and the low pass, it'll actually sound pretty good. Give it a listen here. Now this is the effect with just the high pass and the low pass filter. Oh my gosh! To make this a little bit more harsh, I put another band here. Like this! So it kind of makes a little bit of that mid-high a little bit more harsh and pronounced. But but I felt like this sound could be a little bit more full and easy to hear. So I put another thing at the low end here so you could get a little bit of that lower frequency. Anyway, I think you've heard enough of that for now. Now let's take a look at both of these bands here. Everything will be right down here. For the frequency of number 2, I put it at 7.9 kilohertz, which is 7,900 hertz. But if you see next to the frequency, there's this little Q thing. What the heck is this? Basically what it does is affects how wide a range this band affects. The higher the number, the smaller the range. The lower the number, the wider the range. It's affecting it, spreading around. Whoa. But I wanted to be pretty concentrated on just these frequencies here. But if you look at the big thing just staring you in the face, we have the gain, which means how much higher or lower that this band affects the frequencies. Now let's look at this Roman numeral 1 band over here. Now I have it very tight as you can be, 6, only affecting this little area right there. It's all the way at 692, and the gain is all the way up. Really trying to fight against that high pass, you can see. Moving on, we have the Valhalla Supermassive, which is a delay VST. Now, my understanding is that delay more or less means like echo. Now, I'm sure there's more going on here, and if you're an audio engineer, just whatever. I'm not, I'm just an actor who's played around with audio a little bit. Now, for this effect, I didn't want like a super long delay, which is like, no, I'm talking. We just have it set at 13 milliseconds. So it's just a little bit of effect. It's also got its own little EQ thing, which I felt putting it at these numbers helped out with the overall sound. And something that you might just miss is the mode here. I have it set at Scorpio. By default, it's set at Gemini, I think. But in my opinion, Scorpio sounds the best for what I wanted to try to achieve. And there's stuff like feedback, which, you know, if you've talked on 2 phones at the same time, you understand that. I did that when I was a kid. We got the landline, and then we had the stuff that hooked up to the dock, and you call both of them, and it's like blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? We've also got this mod rate and depth, which are connected, and I don't know enough to explain about it, but these are my settings. 2.6 hertz, 50% depth. Now if you look at the left side here, we got the width at 100%, which basically makes the sound feel like it's wider. Like the left channel and the right channel feel like you're in a field rather than in your bedroom playing Banjo-Kazooie, Genshin Impact. Now all of these together at a 20% mix. Now the last thing we already actually talked about, it's the reverb, the oral river. I'm still not over this. It's a really weird name to say out loud, but there's a few differences this time. I turned the decay time way down because I didn't really want it to reverb too much. I just wanted it to give a feeling like, oh, this is coming from a cell phone, like in my hand or something. And I turned the width down to 17 as well. The room size is at 15 now. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't touch the gain part at all. Oh yes, and of course, the ER variation and the reverb variation. Variation 3 and Variation 2. Those are the ones I wanted to put on there. And finally over here where we mix things up a little bit, I have the ER set at -5, the reverb set at -5.50. I don't really need to say the O part, do I? And we have the wet set at -6.02. I did need to say the O part in that one. And we put them all together and it sounds like this. Yeah, I'm the guy who was continually ordering McFlurries. I kept on calling up and being like, hey, get another McFlurry ready for Dave. And did you guys stop? Because I keep coming by, but there's no new McFlurries. Anyway, that's it. This video was a little bit quicker than the other video I made, and is available on this channel, mostly because I wasn't explaining as much. Anyway, we'll do the same as we did last time. I'll have all the VSTs with all the settings show up on screen, and you can pause whenever they show up so you can input them yourself. Anyway, that's all for now. You can comment down below any more effects that maybe I can try to do, and I might make a follow-up video. Otherwise, catch me on Twitch, catch me on whatever, catch me outside, son. I'ma fight you! I'm just kidding, love you.